only show that's 3 dimensions away from Transformers crossing over with G.I. Joe actually happening. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Transformers Rise of the Beast, released in 2023. Transformers Rise of the Beast is essentially still a prequel to the Michael Bay films, but set in the 90s. But at the same time, it really has a convoluted plot because the Transformers came out, they arrived to Earth in 2007, but yet their Optimus Prime is here in the 90s. It's just a convoluted mess. You know, kind of like the X Men timeline. This time around, the movie is directed by Stephen Caple Jr., who directed Creed 2, and is written by Joby Harold, Darnell Metayer, Josh Peters, Eric and John Huber, and the movie stars Anthony Ramos and Dominic Fishback. The movie also has the voices of Pete Davidson, Peter Cullen, Ron Perlman, and Peter Dinklage. The movie is essentially, set in the 90s, and basically is, of course, what I said, meant to be a prequel to Transformers movies, but it's very convoluted because that shit has happened. We saw what happened. The best way to look at it is almost like, look at it more like a reboot in a way, because if you look at it, you'll have a good time, but if you think about it as a prequel, then you kind of start getting angry. I actually really like this movie. This movie is really good. I liked it more than Bumblebee. Bumblebee I had issues with because I just felt like it was just ripping off TET too much. Although this movie does rip off another movie, don't get me wrong. But I do like this movie a lot better than Bumblebee. There's things I like about this movie. I really like Peter Dinklage as the villain. The villain essentially is basically a trophy hunter who basically goes around to worlds collecting trophies. He went to Cybertron. He's now took out the Beast World because he deserves Unicron. He basically is like his master. And this almost reminded me of the Silver Surfer in a way, where this is Silver Surfer surfing Galactus in a way. That's what I kept thinking about watching this, going, this is basically the Silver Surfer, isn't it? Except the Silver Surfer wasn't evil. And the Peter Dinklage's character is evil. I also liked Pete Davidson's character, who is basically, he's a really funny Transformer that just really, he's hilarious. And just like, he just brings, like, every time you're like all the other Autobots are always serious, and, they occasionally have one-liners, but this one's just like 100% a funny Transformer that made me laugh. And I do like that they're not the focus of the movie. Like, the Transformers are basically, because this is like a Beast Wars movie, basically. The Transformers, even though it's called Transformers, they're not the face of this movie. The Beasts are. And they're basically coming into this world. And basically, like, okay, these are beasts that we're trying to help fight in the war. Because I like how all the Decepticons are not really the villains. These are like characters from the Beast War, are they're essentially the villains. And I think that's so great. I think, because I'm not a huge Transformers fan, I think these are characters from Beast War. I could be wrong. They could be Decepticons as well. But I at least think they are. But I do like them. I do like that the villains in this movie. I do like that this is like essentially not a Transformers movie, but a Beast Wars movie with Transformers in them. And I like that aspect. I know some people might not like that, but I do like it. And I do like how always the villains kill somebody and then takes their logo and then wears it as a badge. That to me is awesome. Like how he kills a beast and then wears their badge. And he kills, when he kills Bumblebee, he puts his like a Transformer on his, badge. I thought that was really cool because it's like it's a trophy hunter, like the Predator. The way, it's like if like the Predator and the Silver Surfer had a baby, and then they went there and they went killing and collecting trophies. I like that aspect of it. And I thought that was really cool as well. And also, there is a cameo at the end. Of spoilers, by the way, if you haven't seen this movie. But like, we're at the end where Anthony Ramos goes to looking for a job, because the idea is he's like looking for a job because he went in the military and got out, and he's looking for a really job. And then of course he can't find it, and then he starts trying to steal, and then he gets caught in the car, and then essentially has a team with the Transformers to save the world. There is like a plot at the end that teases a much bigger world, like world building, and essentially is G.I. Joe show up, and like they're like, hey, you want to come join the G.I. Joes? He's like, well, I'll think about it, And also how he revives Pete Davidson's character at the end. I thought that was stupid, because I liked his noble sacrifice. I liked how he sacrificed himself at the end to stop, the bad guys. I really thought that was really great. And there's also a joke in the movie where like he says something to him, like there's a Transformer that's speaking Spanish, and he's like, oh my god, ¿qué pasa? And he's like, he goes, oh, I don't speak Spanish, man. And he goes, I assume because you're, like you speak Spanish, you're Spanish too. And he goes, I think that's racist, man. And then the Transformer's like, you're a car, how is that racist? And I was like, I actually chuckled at that joke. I was like, and those are some funny moments. I really liked this movie. I also liked how he has his little brother sick because he's trying to help his brother with sick. He's sick and he's trying to help his brother and everything, and he just keeps getting caught in a situation where he tries to do something wrong, but then ends up, And there's also a great scene where they're being chased by the cops, and like he switches multiple vehicles, and then one of them's like flipping off the cop and everything. It's really funny. I was really funny. He's just, it was a really funny moment. I really thought that was cute, and and also there's a Jurassic Park not Easter egg in there when they're in the museum, and there's like the Transformer, one of the like robots is after them, and basically like it's like moving like a what's it called, Velociraptor from Jurassic Park, and I'm like it's overhead, and I'm like it was just so cool and everything. I thought that was great, and and Dominic Fishback's really good in this movie too. I mean, she's actually an important character in the movie, and it's great because like the last time we had a female character that's a side character, like a secondary character, because usually like all the character is mostly was that British girl from like the last night, and I just they're kind of similar, but I feel like she's a better character than the one from last night. I just feel like the one she just wasn't as good, but this one Dominic Fishback is actually a much better character in this movie, and also I like how and I like how the Transformers are getting annoyed with Pete Davidson's character and everything, and he's just like he was in the car where you called me, so I just brought him, just and just like that, and there's a lot of great things in this movie I like about it. And there are things I don't like about this movie. Like I don't like Bumblebee's death. I just feel like Bumblebee dying. I was like, it just to me I was like, how does he die and then he comes back? But then shouldn't in Transformers 2 them say Bumblebee like, hey, I died. I know how to bring him back. That just creates another plot hole. I'm like, there's just so many plot holes in this movie because it's trying to connect to the other movies. I wish they would have said in press, "Hey, look, does not connect to these movies. This is the first movie that's a reboot of the series." Then I would have been much happier because it feels like then anybody can die, anybody. But I know Bumblebee wasn't gonna stick because like he's alive in the 2007 film, so I know that's not gonna stick, and that kind of irked me because I'm like, this is just a fake out. I mean, the plot holes of this movie are just like there's like okay, why like shouldn't he be recruited for Sector 7? Like what if this was John Turturro's character instead of the G.I. Joe thing at the end? Because the G.I. Joes never existed because it's the 90s. They never existed in the previous Transformer movies, so why wouldn't it be Sector 7 at the end? Wouldn't that make more sense? Since this is a prequel, shouldn't that be John Turturro? Wouldn't make it sense if Anthony Ramos was John Turturro's character from the first movie? That would make it more sense, and that would be like I think a much more interesting movie because then it would probably cover up some plot holes in the movie instead of creating more plot holes. But that's just me on that. Also, it feels like Ant-Man some parts. Like it feels like a guy down on his luck who tries to commit a crime and then ends up getting something that ends up saving the day, just like Ant-Man. And I'm just like, that's Ant-Man. And I was like, and also there's a messy third act. Like there's like they're on this giant because they're trying to stop Unicron, and it just feels so much like last night. And I'm just like, oh god, we have to relive this shit again. I was like, it feels like literally Michael Bay is just like literally is like, hey, you're gonna love Last Night, whether you like to or not. Even though he didn't direct this movie, he's still involved in the production. He had to approve everything in this movie. So Michael Bay was still like in charge of this movie, and I bet you anything, he was like, yeah, they're like, I bet you Stephen J. Cole's like, I have a cool idea, and Michael Bay's like, no, I want to do it like this. And he's like, come on, Michael, come on, please. Like, nope, I want it like this. And it just irks me because I'm just like, I just feel like if Michael Bay wasn't involved, it might have been different. A couple things might have been different. But I will say, the action's still fantastic. I mean, the action is fantastic. There's a lot of action sequences in this movie that are amazing, and I'm like, this is still, it does still feel like a Michael Bay film. So if you are expecting it not to feel like a Michael Bay film, you're going to be very, very disappointed. Because, he's never going away. I mean, he's still the highest grossing Transformers director. So you're pretty much shit out of luck if you want a Michael Bay-less Transformer movie. Also, the third act is, it also feels like Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer at the end very much. I'm just sitting there watching this going, yeah, this feels like Last Night in Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer. Yeah, I was just watching this going, yeah. And it feels even like the first Transformers. It feels like they're putting three different plots of a movie in this one thing, where it's like, okay, we got basically this is the Allspark they're looking for, basically the Allspark that they're looking for, and then essentially the Transformers are there to help, but then you have the Beasts that are like the new ones that come in to help, and then you have the bad guys, and essentially it feels like, and also my sister, when she was watching it, says when Pete Davidson's character is on top of him, she says, wouldn't he die because that's a giant car on top of you? And I'm like, yeah, but the plot, there's a lot of plot holes in this movie, so that's like the least of their concern. So yeah, that's what I feel. I do think it's a fun movie though. I understand why people don't like these films. I enjoy these films, but yes, there was a lot of plot holes in this movie. There was a lot of issues in this movie. And I understand every single Transformer has plot holes in it. I mean, you basically, it's like the Fast and Furious movie. You have to turn off your brain and pretend like science and stuff doesn't exist because you're just creating more plot issues and you're just making yourself more mad. I did enjoy this movie. Is it my favorite Transformers movie? Hell no. Is it my least favorite? No. I still think Last Night's the worst in the series. But like, I did enjoy most of this movie for the most part. I think Stephen and Jay Colbert did a good job directing. If I had to give this movie a grade, I would give it a solid B minus. Thank you so much.
Yo, Noah, take the wheel.